Welcome to the Talkies by Karman Line Studios. 3 filmmakers talking about movies. My name is D.
My name is Kenny.
My name is Taylor.
And today we are starting COENCON.
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 With their first, the Coen Brothers' first movie, Blood Simple.
Yeah. Should we define COENCON for the
ask,
listeners at home?
Yeah. So if you were unaware from our last, 8 episodes or something? We've been following Kubrick.
Yeah, we did a Kubrick deep dive. We did KubrickCon.
Yes, KubrickCon.
Where, we
sounds
just
like
go
a
over.
sandwich. KubrickCon.
Ooh.
I thought it sounds like
Mr. Pickles.
Sounds like Cobra Kai.
Ooh.
KubrickCon.
Ooh, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, so we talked about all of his movies in reverse chronological order. Yeah.
It was Eyes Wide Shut down to Paths of Glory.
Yeah, and we kind of picked and choose at the end there, but that was a lot of fun. So we decided to do the same thing with Coen Brothers this time, except this time do it the correct way and start from the beginning.
Their first film, Blood Simple.
Therefore, Blood Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this was my first time watching it.
I saw this movie probably 15 years ago. It's probably my first time seeing it.
Nice.
Loved it then, love it today.
Wow. Big
This
words.
is my second time seeing it. And yeah, I liked this movie a lot. I liked it the first time I watched it also.
Oh my God.
And I liked it even more this time, actually.
I absolutely love it.
This movie is amazing.
I love this movie.
What I especially noticed this time that I didn't sense this the first time. Now the first time I was in a state where I could barely call myself a filmmaker. If I called myself a filmmaker, I knew I was lying, but I did it anyway, right? And so this time I've, the eyes of someone who's done a lot more
Filmmaking.
time into the filmmaking world.
Yeah.
You can see all the earmarks of new filmmakers in this movie. It feels like young filmmakers making a film, and yet at the same time you see all the traits that we've come to love about the Coen Brothers hidden in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of Coen Brothers stuff in this movie.
Well, there's stuff that would become like Coen Brother hallmarks.
Yeah,
and you're seeing it for the first time.
Yeah,
That's
the
pretty cool.
uniqueness of their directing style, and with things like how the camera floats over the dude
On the bar.
over the bar.
That's so good. Yeah.
That's such a Coen Brothers thing to do.
Yeah.
And all the comedy and the plot itself being a hit gone wrong, and everybody misunderstands everyone pretty much.
Yeah.
That's almost like there's like 3 Coen Brothers movies like that.
Yeah.
That just sounds like Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
Just that plot right there. I want to point out that this movie feels like, to me, the kind of movie that somebody would say, like, hey, I saw this movie in the 80s and it was really good. That's what this movie is.
1984.
Okay.
Oh,
Wow.
so smack in the 80s.
That is straight up 80s.
That's funny.
Well, that's
Well, you notice how
That's
young
crazy.
Frances McDormand is?
yeah. She's very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shelley Duvall.
That's really interesting. So there were 10 years between Blood Simple and Fargo.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wow. I feel like when I talk about filmmaking as a craft where you have something that you can master, that you have something that you can do the best of, that's this movie. I feel like when Kenny, you were talking about how a filmmaker has like earmarks, like this movie has the earmarks of young filmmakers, someone who does wides when they're supposed to, close-ups when they're supposed to, and OTSs and stuff. Everything felt so well thought out that it was like we're showing this for a reason, and everything was just perfectly fit together. In fact, it felt that way so much that it felt like I needed more creativity on top of it, and they delivered, I think, a lot of that, to where it felt like they were filmmakers that have gone through, for some reason, felt like they had already mastered the craft, and like, now we need to do something a little bit more, and they do things like floating over the guy's head and cutting from the dream sequence when the guy vomits blood.
Yeah, like they had the foundations of filmmaking down, and were using Blood Simple as a vehicle to explore their like creative voices.
Right. It's like they already knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing, and the dialogue is freaking amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, they learned lots of tricks between here and Fargo. Writing wasn't one they needed to improve on at
Yeah,
all.
they're
Like, they
very
were
talented
already
writers.
just
Yeah.
amazing writers.
To talk about something recently that we saw of the Coen Brothers, I guess not that recently, but Buster Scruggs. I think about the dialogue that happened in there, and in comparison to this movie, they feel identical. Not like the same kind of words or anything like that, but like the mastery of.
Like, it's just as good writing.
It's just as good.
Even though it's been like 30 years.
Yeah, it's awesome. Of
Over 30 years.
There
50, 40 years?
there are a lot of
Almost, yeah.
Coen brother film, either dialogue scenes or monologues, where I feel like you could just watch with the image off. Like they just stand up really, really well
Yeah.
on the words alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. What's interesting about Blood Simple is I think it's still like probably in my opinion they're like, I guess not counting of the ones I've seen, there's only one I haven't seen, that's Lady Killers, and I heard that's a bad movie, so we'll be getting to that in the future. That'll be interesting, I think. But this movie feels a little rough around the edges.
Yes.
Compared to pretty much, I feel like almost all of their movies going forward.
Yeah.
Where like Blood Simple, it was like them still grappling. Like they would do some creative things that I would see them do again later, but better.
Right.
And like improve upon the execution of some of their creative things in here. I don't think like fully worked how they, I think maybe wanted them to.
Like what?
Like there's this crazy shot of like when Francis McDormand and the what's his name, the dude who gets shot and they have to get rid of his body the whole time. He's like the main
Marty.
antagonist.
Marty.
That's right. Yeah. He they're like fighting out front of their house, and there's that crazy point of view shot of like something that is like running from the street up to them, but there isn't anything
Right.
there, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the, it reminded me of the shot in Evil Dead when they do the point of view of the monster in the Evil Dead, and that's how they show the monster, just through the point of view, and it's running through the forest.
Right.
It gave me that vibe, but it felt like it was an idea that they had to do, that they wanted to do, and it was a creative idea that didn't like fully land right.
Yeah.
And also, here's another really specific one, is the moment when I can't remember their names, the lover of Francis McDormand, Ray, he's got rid of the body already, and he's driving down the road, and that car is oncoming, and it's flashing its lights, and it's really tense, and you're like, oh man, what's this gonna be? And when they pass, the dude flashes him a smile and like does finger guns at him, and like it's great thematically, and like the tension, like it's so Coen Brothers, but the pure technical execution of it was a little sloppy,
just a little off.
Yeah, a little rough, a little bit quick. The pacing wasn't quite right.
That's kind of what I felt like the movie felt 80s in that respect, because there were, I think, a lot of movies that tried to do things like really fast cut fight scenes, for example, like when Ray was fighting, or not Ray, my bad, when the names here, Marty and the girl, when they were fighting outside, and they were just like these quick cuts of, oh man, this stuff is crazy, and it felt unnecessary. Like, whereas like a more contemporary movie, in this respect, like Born Identity, when they're trying to cut in between all these shots, like the point is that they're cutting really fast to provoke like this kind of maniacal sense about the scene, but here it didn't really feel that way. It just kind of felt like quick cuts.
I wonder what the conditions were under which they made this film, because I think you're totally right, Taylor. The next film is Raising Arizona, which is just like 2 years later, and it is clockwork polished, right? Nah, it doesn't have any of the roughness that you see
in Blood Simple.
So it's like either some major developments happen with them in between, or we're talking about different conditions. What I'm assuming is that this is a low budget film. They probably had a lot of different limitations in terms of gear and crew and time
Yeah.
and resources
that make it harder
Yeah.
to execute those really intricate,
Yeah.
creative ideas.
Yeah.
Because that's like what the Coen Brothers is all about. Like those, like all their creativity is super intricate
Yeah.
and like very specific.
Yeah. Raising Arizona, it takes that to like a whole nother
Yeah.
crazy level.
I'm excited to get to that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be cool. Like, I haven't seen that in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, like that one shot where they go over the guy's head on the bar
Yeah.
in Blood Simple.
Don't compare anything. I haven't seen it. I don't
He
want
hasn't
spoilers.
seen-
I don't even want visual spoilers. I don't care.
Visual spoiler.
I don't care.
All right, I guess it's a
Just
visual
telepathically
spoiler.
communicate. You guys are related, right? So
Yeah.
We'll stay on Blood Simple.
Fine.
So this movie is like, I would say it's you know how there's like, I feel like there's this young film to the young filmmaker point. There's this thing that all young filmmakers want to do, including myself, is to do like a movie about like a hit gone wrong, or like involving some kind of crime, guys with guns trying to kill somebody,
Yeah.
but it gets messy.
I see that a lot
Yeah.
in new filmmakers,
Yeah,
including
that-
myself.
Yes, yeah, like we've all been there as
We've all made this
filmmakers. And I think like this movie is probably the best example of that being done at like a really high caliber. Like pretty much like it's a movie that almost sounds generic,
Yeah.
but is really not at all.
Really not.
Yeah.
And when you compare it to other masters' first movies,
Yeah.
it's really special.
Yeah, totally.
Like
How competent it is.
yeah, if we walk back the years on a lot of the other big filmmakers out there, and you get to the first work. So I mean, we joke about Christopher Nolan's first movie.
His quote for his movie. The Following was his first movie.
Yeah.
You know, I watched the Wachowskis' first movie.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a similar thing where you could see, you can tell these are the guys that are going to make The Matrix, but it's nowhere near as strong a movie.
Yeah.
Right.
As
As
this
Blood
is.
Simple, yeah. Even Kubrick's first movie isn't
Yeah.
nearly as good as this.
Yeah.
Fear and Desire.
Yep.
Coen Brothers, they know what's up. They don't fuck around. They make good
I've
movies.
believed it since I was, I don't know, 21. I had decided Coens
Yeah.
were the best.
Yeah.
And I don't think that opinion has really changed at all.
Yeah.
They're so solid.
Always. They're just
Yeah.
always hella
and
solid.
and honestly, the thing I'm most excited about, other than just rewatching these movies for COENCON here, is to get to the few that are contentious, the few that have some conversation around them.
Yeah.
One of those is Lady Killers.
Yeah.
One of those, and then there's of course Cruel.
Intolerable
Intolerable Cruelty.
Yeah.
Ghost directed and written
yeah,
by.
yeah. Which for some reason they wouldn't even put their names on. So I'm curious to dig into those because it's easy to stand back and look at the Coens and just be like they're
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, and then to say every single
Yeah.
movie they made is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people look over those two. And I haven't even seen those two movies.
Yeah.
So
When I look at Coen Brothers, we first learned, or I first learned about it in film school when we started talking about script writing, and we looked at Fargo as an example of really good script writing. Everything that I learned in film school, Coen Brothers just do, and they do it really, really well. And so it's really easy to analyze their films and see what's going on. That's good. So when someone asks me if what's your favorite director, usually I come out with the more artistic one in my head anyway, where it's Denis Villeneuve or Christopher Nolan. But Coen Brothers are so good, so just good at what they do that I can't help but just think that there's some of the best filmmakers around, and I love that.
That's when I consider the Coens more creative than I would, or you used the word artistic, but I would
Artistic could mean many
I
things.
consider them more artistic than Nolan or
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Denis.
Well, it depends on what you mean by generic, I guess, at
Yeah.
that point. Yeah. In generic, in my view, because I learned about filmmaking from people like the Coens, again, they use everything that I've learned to its mastery level, whereas Nolan focuses a lot on the visuals side of things. So that when I say more artistic, I mean less
Film
about the script
schooly
structure.
and non-film schooly kind of.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
So they know how to use all the right tools the right way.
Yeah.
But they use them to do to say things that are very creative.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neither of you guys have seen Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh yeah,
Is that right?
I have not seen that.
I've not
movie.
seen
Yeah.
actually half
Right.
the films that these
I'm
guys have made.
delighted about the prospect of showing you guys that movie.
I'm really interested in what we're gonna have to say about Barton Fink because I've never heard anyone talk about that movie.
I really like that
I
movie.
love
Yeah.
Barton.
Yeah.
See, it's so weird because every time I've just said the name, I never get a reaction from anyone. It's like, oh yeah.
It's
they
one
made
of
that.
their less talked about movies,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah.
But so is Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I often mention it and people don't know it's even by them.
Right.
And Miller's Crossing.
Miller's Crossing is probably their least known film.
Yeah. And that movie's
Yeah.
awesome too.
Yeah. This is going to be fun, guys.
Yeah, so
Is this episode talking about her?
yeah, talking about every
We're all
movie but
excited.
Bloodstone.
All right, so I adore the character of the private investigator.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, he's like a larger than life Texas archetype. Like
Yeah.
I felt like he just like represents Texas.
I've been watching the Fargo series and which is really good by the way. But I feel like the characteristics of the characters and the places that they use in there is kind of like throughout all their other films. They have I feel like they have a draw to the more rural parts of towns and
No
stuff.
doubt.
With Fargo and with this movie. There was another one. Oh, with Buster Scruggs, stuff like that. I feel like the archetype of Texans and stuff like is something that you see a lot in their movies. Just No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Also. Yeah, where they just know how to put together these people that are completely believable.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh yeah, I know that guy. He lives down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think they like very like striking locations. They
Yeah.
like locations that are, stark, right? It's either snow everywhere, desert everywhere, sand.
Sure.
So they really like that. And then they like characters that have a culture, that have
Yeah.
like a deep culture.
Yeah.
Like the Minnesota
Or
Yeah,
or
exactly.
even the people in Serious Man.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
all of them are just everyday people, but they all have such unique characteristics about them.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And the dude just is the quintessential version of that.
Yeah.
The whole movie's about
That's what
that,
it's about.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny what they did with the antagonist, or what I would say is the antagonist of this movie, being Marty. In that Marty is an antagonist that is like, kind of like I believe him entirely as somebody who is capable of doing harm or being a bad guy, but he's like beat down the whole movie. Like
Yeah.
he never has the upper hand
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And he just
Yeah.
keeps getting just like thwarted all the time.
And it appears he's reaching further in like he's dabbling into levels of badness that
Yeah.
he's not cut out for.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like there's part of him that he believes he's this thug that could call out a hit
Yeah.
on someone, but as soon as he realizes it's happened, he's puking.
yeah, exactly.
That's the thing that I like so much about, I think, Coens in general, is that I feel like
Yeah.
they do things like that, where they take the film that everyone's imagining already, and they're just like, it doesn't turn out that way, though.
Yeah.
This is more real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't turn out that way. It
Yeah.
doesn't turn out the way you think it would.
Right.
And virtually all of their movies that involve some kind of heist-like plot,
Some
you know,
crime element.
Yeah.
are people getting in over their head.
right.
you
Totally.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
Fargo
all
obviously
of their
comes
movies.
to mind.
Yeah.
Burn After
Yeah.
Reading.
Yeah.
You know,
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
There are people getting involved in things that they think they're ready to get involved in, and they're just wrong.
They're just completely wrong.
Dead
right.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's such a cool idea. That's something my screenwriter professor would say all the time. Is she'd go, filmmakers, they tell the same story over and over and over and over again. They're always telling the same story. And that makes sense when you think about it in the Coen Brothers, is they're taking that idea and they do it over and over again. And that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean they're treading the same ground. It's just they're expanding upon and reimagining.
Sharpening, I think.
Yeah, sharpening. Yeah. Or even doing it in different kind of stylistic contexts.
Yeah.
Like Fargo has like just the darkest comedy.
Right.
But No Country for Old Men is like 100% dead serious.
Right.
No
Yeah,
comedy
super
whatsoever.
serious. Yeah, no comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like the theme that I want to talk, that I think Coens do, that we've just been talking about, where the things don't turn out as you think they do. I want to compare it to, I know we keep going to other movies here, but
Talk about everything but
yeah,
Blood
I know.
Simple.
But A Serious Man, when the dude's at the dentist and he's talking about the story that he experienced
Yeah.
with this other guy who had symbols in his teeth.
Yeah.
That story that he tells that doesn't really have an ending, I feel like is every movie that they've made. It's like you're telling the story and like as the audience you're like, oh, I've seen this, I know where this is going, and you're like, wait a second, and then it keeps going. You're just like, oh, that's not what I thought, and then it ends, and you're like, oh, what was that?
Like, wow.
Yeah, it's like a head scratcher, and it's dark in that respect.
It's very dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're able to craft like some really bleak moments using that to call it a technique, I would say.
Yeah. Like at the end of this movie, Blood Simple, I really thought, what's his name, the assassin dude was going to kill the girl.
Yeah.
And that would just leave, on a happy tune. And the guy did what he wanted, and
Yeah.
now he's done.
I love how she thought it was Marty.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he laughs.
And
Right.
that her and Ray were never able to clear up what happened to Marty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray never was able to tell her that Marty's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The resolution was never
he
there.
assumes that she knows.
Yeah, because how else would her gun be there?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and from their point of view, like, I'd be in the same shoes as him. I'd be like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, of course
Yeah.
it was you.
Yeah.
How that would have mean if for your gun to be there, it would have meant somebody would have had to break in,
Yeah.
steal the gun, have a change of heart, and then go back and shoot him there.
How ridiculous.
How ridiculous.
And I love-
But that is what happened.
I love the constant close-ups of the fish on the counter.
Yeah.
Just the person thinking, what? Like keep thinking,
fish
why
here.
are there
Why?
fish here?
Why are there
And they never wrap it up.
No, yeah.
It's great. They just leave it. That's just a strand. We're just gonna leave it.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I think that's interesting because I think that speaks to real life in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas in real life,
you try to connect things and you can't.
and sometimes you just can't. Sometimes
And-
things
yeah.
are just inexplicable. Sometimes
Yeah.
things will never be explained.
Right.
And sometimes it just doesn't matter.
That's a serious man all over. That's
Yeah, that's what that movie's
you
about.
think things
basically.
have meaning. You want to put meaning into something, and it doesn't necessarily always have meaning.
Yeah.
Right.
And then even this movie told us something did have meaning, and then it didn't.
right.
yeah.
The lighter.
The lighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
right? They're
the
like, he left the lighter.
and the gun and maybe even the
oh, it
the
don't
clamshell.
matter. It never mattered.
And then what's interesting is taking that like real life idea of things being some things just kind of not really meaning much, and applying it to a film, where in a film everything is supposed to mean everything.
Yeah.
But you're just taking something that it does kind of happen in real life and applying it in a film, and
See?
it like subverts
Okay.
reality.
What you're saying right there, I think is a perfect example of why I don't like new filmmakers. When they think they're people like the Coen Brothers and they haven't mastered these techniques. I don't remember the film that comes to mind, but like we did, a thing where we used to watch short films and then judge them, right? So one of the things that these guys did was created a shot that he said that he did on purpose. And you're like, that's great that you did it on purpose. Why did you do it? Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think he could explain that. We didn't ask him why, but because it was a one-way thing. But in here, the shots of the fish, the shots of the lighter, there's reasons why they did these things, and you can watch them and you understand things that come to light. You're like, oh, the lighter's important, and then later on you figure out, oh, it wasn't important. Oh, they were fooling me, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm the sucker here. But I could easily see a new filmmaker doing the same exact thing and being like, yeah, I focused on the Coke can while these two guys were talking. And it wasn't
Yeah.
that cool? And you're just like, well, why'd you do that?
Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
To what end?
Right, to what end exactly?
I can't tell you how many times I've seen. I mean, it's a videography, so it's different. But I've been at events, weddings, and stuff like that, where the videographer just can't help but shoot something going on through a glass of champagne. Right, the glass is there, and they're like, "Wouldn't it be cool if I just got behind this glass and shot through the glass of champagne?" And yeah, it's cool.
I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, but what does that
Why?
do?
You know, he's just
what-
really
why?
bored.
You know what the things that one of the things I'm guilty of, and I've seen other videographers do with weddings, and this is completely connected. When
Okay.
when someone like does like a lean in behind a doorway to reveal the bride getting ready for her
Yeah,
for her
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So you've seen that shot,
Classic.
right? Like that.
Classic.
What that does?
Classic wedding.
What that does is introduce voyeurism, right?
Yeah.
You're watching something that you shouldn't necessarily be watching, and then they cut inwards, and now suddenly everything's fine. I'm like, why did you have that shot? Well, it's because in their head it's a reveal, but they don't have a purpose. They don't have an end in mind. It's just because I'm here and I think this looks cool and it's dynamic. It's the reason why every goddamn filmmaker has a slider.
Yeah.
And they just shoot every interview with a slider because
it's
because
cool.
it's dynamic and it's cool. It's
Yeah,
cinematic.
wow. I want it to look cool.
Yeah, yeah. Without an end in mind, at least in your head, it doesn't mean anything. And the Coens have that just mastered.
Yeah. They're
A-
using it to make an artistic statement.
Yeah, an actual statement, and you can tell. That the things have these to mind. Like even, I think the point is when you look at like the cuts of the fish, right? When the fish are on the counter and we keep going from back to her, back to the fish, back to her, back to the fish. The point is that they're making a statement here, even if you can't tell what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a single shot that's left over somewhere that they cut in. They keep going back to it. Right?
Yeah.
There's something happening. Same with the lighter. It's close-ups, but it's in different locations everywhere, right? During different kinds of movements that he's doing. Again, it's purposeful. So, yeah. Rant over.
I loved the one sequence where she wakes up in the morning at Ray's house, and then she's surprised by Marty, who has snuck in and tries to attack her, right? And that's something that you could just follow the textbook rules. You don't, you leave some negative space behind her, and then he sneaks into that negative space, and ooh, big surprise. And
Yeah.
that's just how you do it in any movie.
Right.
I loved that it started off with her hearing a dog panting and seeing this dog, and us immediately knowing that this dog's out of place, and her being like, why is the dog here?
Yeah.
Then revealing the guy, and then the dog's panting becoming the score for the intensity of the scene.
Yeah.
It's just that's Coen brother creativity on
Absolutely.
display at its best. It's a very simple scene, and they made it so much like that's what makes a scene dynamic.
Yeah.
right.
Sure. Absolutely.
Is that kind of
Yeah.
creativity?
And that when he does come in, that actually did make me jump a little bit when his arm comes around.
Yeah.
After all that build up.
It throws you for a loop when they revealed the dog.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It makes
There's
you a little
there's an additional piece
disoriented.
there. Yeah.
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 And I still love that she beats him anyway.
Yes, I do too.
The ceiling fan is another example of that.
Yeah.
Right? Where they use the ceiling fan almost as dialogue. Right? Like they pick up the phone and they hear the ceiling fan, which is not
Vroom.
So
Which
menacing.
is like that doesn't happen, right? You can't hear a
Yeah.
ceiling fan through a phone, but the fact that they've used it plenty of times before where the guy's staring at the fan, Marty, it comes to be synonymous. It's like almost his theme.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like when she picks up the phone, it's already menacing that there's no one on the other line, and then
Yeah.
they just hang up. But that's in every movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, to go Coen Brothers with it, you're just like, well, let's take
But
that theme. and put it
Beyond
in there.
that,
Put it through
the
the phone,
ceiling
yeah.
fan is part of their placemaking. I've talked about before how the Coens are just master of giving you a sense of a location,
Yeah.
of making you feel like you know the place. And in Blood Simple, in this small town in Texas, the ceiling fan is an important. It's everywhere,
Yeah.
right? It's in every room. We're in a place that is always hot, where people don't have a lot of money. They're not running air conditioners. They have ceiling fans
Sure.
going all the time. You have sweaty foreheads. You're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're middle to low income.
Yeah.
Right. You just feel it throughout, and it's cool that what they use, sort of like you suggested, like a dialogue piece.
Right.
Also is what sort of glues together this sense of place.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Parts of this movie feel a little horror.
Yeah.
Horror?
Yeah, horror.
A little
horror?
A little thought.
Like a little horror.
Prostitute.
Yes.
I see.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Oh, pay to play.
Yes.
Sure.
Exactly.
Horror.
Yeah, I would agree.
Horror.
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 Tell me
Horror.
about the horror tropes.
Well, I mean, just like the dog sequence with fucking, what's his name? Marty? Yeah.
And Marty's his last name, actually.
What's his first name?
Yeah, I don't know.
They call him Marty.
They call him Marty. Yeah.
That sequence, a lot of the sequences of, I think Frances McDormand like hiding in the apartment and like towards the end, and her nightmares.
Man,
feel
that
kind
whole
of spooky.
scene where the assassin's coming into the house, like that part felt horrific for him, actually, from
Yeah.
his point of view.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, is Ray gonna come up and shoot him?
Yeah.
I feel bad for him, for the assassin.
Tell me what you guys felt, because I knew it was coming in this viewing, but the first time I watched Blood Simple, I was really shocked to see Ray go down.
Oh, yeah.
When he was shot, it really surprised me, because he felt like a very primary and protagonist.
I was expecting it only because Coen's, have
Okay.
colored my mind in that
Yeah.
respect. What I was actually surprised over was Marty getting shot
Yeah.
from the assassin.
Yeah.
That made me jump. And I was just like, I didn't know that was in his plans. This assassin guy has his own playbook.
His own agenda here. Yeah. I wasn't surprised the first time I saw it so much. But yeah, I think that's just because I was really familiar with the Coen Brothers
Yeah.
already, so that wasn't too out of left field for me.
I can tell you though, to that respect, in Fargo, I was very surprised when the I don't remember who it was, but when someone was brought harm, something happened in that movie, and I was just like, oh wow, I was not expecting that. Same with what's his name in Burn After Reading.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, that's the
That's-
ultimate.
Yeah.
I
That's
love that.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are talking about more Coen Brother movies.
It's
Well,
just they're so good, is all.
So much of what it's hard not to think about every other Coen Brother movie after watching Blood Simple, because
Yeah.
of everything done in Blood Simple is revisited in one piece or another in all of their other movies.
Ooh, I can say this. Okay, so I'm coming back to Blood Simple, starting with No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
In that, because that was around the earlier time of my exposure to Coen Brothers, the ending kind of made me go, it left a bad taste in my mouth, which I know is supposed to. But anyway, just before the ending, though, when they had this climax happening, and then they started doing this de-escalation, the falling action, as people would call it. Usually in movies, that falling action is very small. It'll just happen, and then that's the conclusion of the movie, right? And you're just like, wow, what a ride, because you ended on such a high note, and then you had a small falling action. No Country for Old Men had a pretty long one.
Yeah.
This one, Blood Simple, I felt like had the perfect amount, and I think it's because of that scene where what's his name's hand was stabbed with a knife. The emotions were running so high in that scene, because not only are these two people who have been basically after each other that they didn't know, they were after each other, but they were for the longest time, finally meet up, and then we finally have the showdown that we were looking for, where the girl kills the other guy thinking he's Marty. Like, there's a lot of different things happening here, and I feel like that's the climax that nobody asked for but was expecting the whole time, and I really like that.
That's really interesting. Yeah, no one expecting it, but it's like obvious in retrospect in a way.
Yeah.
Or like it's it was all leading to that moment, but nobody knew.
But nobody knew, right? Yeah, yeah.
Because there was so much misunderstanding between the characters.
Right, and it didn't disappoint, And I just love that we ended on such a crazy.
And it was
thing.
cool because like the movie ends exactly where the movie should, or like it has nothing left after that. Every single piece on the board,
All the plots
had been
are tied up.
completely done.
Yeah.
And as soon as like it's done, it's over.
You're
And, like,
done with it.
we don't get an
Yeah.
epilogue. We don't know what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
See, this
much.
This is why I look at directors like Paul Greengrass and I'm just like, cringe, bro. Because like I looked back and like master people, Coen Brothers. Look at what they can do with film, and you're doing this. This ain't cool. I don't like this at all. Paul Greengrass has a lot of those things where he has epilogue.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, well now we did the thing. Now check out what happens to the characters afterwards.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, no.
Yeah, well, it just all depends on what you've set up previously,
Yeah.
right? And in this movie, the ending literally tied up all things that had been set up,
Right.
right? If part of the setup was that she was looking for love, right?
Right.
Then maybe there would be an afterward
man.
where she finds that
Yeah.
love.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But we don't care so much about that. The
Yeah.
real thing we cared about was does she know what happened to Marty?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Right. And one of I think that also speaks to their, just directing ability to take what was written and turn it into something that was visual and then edit it. Because as we know, like the best movies of all time go through a heavy amount of revision, right? Where like Star Wars, for example, was even a completely different movie by the time it was finished, I wonder if you look at something like Blood Simple as a script and see that there were things that they shot that they should not have had in the final, and they just cut it out, thinking, oh yeah, that doesn't go anywhere, let's cut it out. Whereas most directors might leave it in just because for length, just because for blah blah blah, just because we paid this actor and they're in the credits, so they need to be in here. Like I feel like
Right.
there's artists behind this name, behind Blood Simple, rather than, I don't know, business deals.
Yeah.
Totally.
A movie that comes to mind when we talk about epilogues. Epilogues. That's the one at
Yep.
the end, right?
Yeah.
Prologue.
Prologue, epilogue, yeah.
Is Lord of the Rings, right? Because it epilogues for a long time,
4 different epilogues.
but all are tying up
There's different
pieces
ends. Yeah.
that all started. They
Yeah.
all had an end in mind,
Yeah.
and they needed to pay off that end.
Right.
Simple movie. Blood Simple is a simple movie.
It's very simple, yeah.
In terms of its moving pieces.
Yeah.
They avoided the temptation of overdoing it.
Yeah.
I think it was funny also that like I thought it was really funny how he's laying dead in the bathroom like a dying and his head's under the sink, and we cut to that point of view shot of him looking up at the bottom of the sink. There's something about that's really funny. Like,
I love that.
Like the funny
it so
about
much.
like the idea is that like the final thing you see in your life
Right.
is the bottom of a sink,
Right.
and
That's
its
what I-
water's dropping on
I
you.
always
That's
thought
what I
that
got
was
from it.
kind
Yeah.
of.
I love that. It's nihilistic almost.
It is, yeah.
I thought it was kind of poignant. You
Yeah.
know, it's like
bleak.
here you were involved in these great machinations. You know, these big plans, and as you're dying, your last thought is, that has a leak.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It's like, hey, that has a leak.
See, that's what I love so much now, thinking about No Country for Old Men, the ending of that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It feels so good when you look at the theme in general, and people like to like look at movies and then analyze them based on what they've seen and what they've interpreted, right? And things can interpret a myriad different of ways, right? People have gone into Fargo talking about and No Country for Old Men talking about all kinds of symbolism. I'm sure there's a lot of people that will talk about the fish in this movie, or have talked about it, being so symbolic of something. And I like that, at least to me, it feels like it's intentionally unsymbolic, non-symbolic, that they're putting something forth to make you, the viewer, look at it and just be like, well, what are you trying to say? And then just have that question hanging in the air.
Yeah.
and then realize that it doesn't really amount to anything, and that's what life is. I feel like that's what it is, but that's probably just my interpretation of it. But
Yeah.
anyway, I like it though.
That's what I get out of it. That's what I've always thought of the Coen Brothers. Like, they always kind of hit this like comedic nihilism
Yeah.
often. I mean, like they even literally have nihilists in the Big Lebowski, like literally.
Well, I mean, to a very small degree, comedic nihilism. That's the driving off in the direction of the dead end.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yes.
The two times where they like
Both
speed off.
anger time. Yeah.
Yeah. That to me, that's like just the funniest
I
stuff.
love that.
It's good.
I think that is so hilarious.
Yeah.
He speeds off and then he's like, "Oh, I gotta
Then
turn
brakes
around."
and then turn around,
That
yeah.
awkward moment after like that would never happen in a movie. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But it would happen in real life, maybe.
Yeah, and I love that that they kind of laugh it off. That they don't put it like it's such a poignant joke.
Yeah, they just
You know?
let it play out, and,
Right.
and he goes. And then the way they show it the second time when they do a callback to it, they don't even show it. They just do sound.
It's just the sound.
Yeah, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's so subtle.
It
but
is. It's
awesome.
great. Super good.
I think if I remember correctly, I was watching because I actually don't know that much about like the Coen Brothers and like how they got into filmmaking. They're pretty mysterious.
They're mysterious people.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
They
there
were
are
sent down from the heavens as natural born filmmakers.
yeah
Well,
something.
they
That's
stay
what
out
it
of
feels
the
like.
spotlight. They don't.
Yeah, there's very few. There's like a handful of interviews with them.
They're not celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, I think I was watching one interview with them where they said that Blood Simple was a movie that they cringe at, that they like, they're like, they kind of don't like it.
Yeah.
And they see it as kind of like
I mean, I could see the rough edges in it.
right. And I'm sure that's all they see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, just like you said, we compare it to Raising Arizona 2 years later.
Yeah.
It's a massive leap forward.
Yeah. Just way better overall
Yeah.
in terms of like just roughness and
Yeah.
technicalities and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Well, you can just see they're able to do the things in their imaginations better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes kind of like Blood Simple pretty unique. That's why you almost like, in this case, I would give the rough edges a little more of a pass because they're trying their best to execute the visions in their head with
Right.
what they have.
Right.
And I don't know, I can't really mess with that.
Yeah.
Like, I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other first film I could think of that it just captures the character of the filmmaker for the rest of their like this tells you what kind of filmmakers the Coens are going to be onward, right? And is good. And the only other film I can think of that does that in terms of a first film is Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs being
Oh,
the
wow,
same
yeah.
with Tarantino.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a statement. He's like, I am Tarantino.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Coen Brothers are like that too. Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. I'm still like really kind of blown away that this was 1984 because like I don't know, in my head I was like, this is like early 90s, even though it's so obvious, like it sounds so 80, it looks so 80s. But I feel like I'm getting that 90s vibe because it feels like the movie feels like, in terms of story, execution, creativity, feels like an indie, mid 90s indie movie. Like it's straight up 10 full years ahead of its time. That's kind of
Interesting.
the impression I get from it.
I wonder if early 80s is like, for me, what contemporary filmmaking like started out as, because when I look at movies that are older than 80s, I start to see the aging, what I would call it, you know, where I start to see, that's a different type of acting that they're doing, or that's a different kind of music or sound effects. When that's ever present in 80s movies and 90s movies also, they have just the cultural thing that's happening within those movies. But I don't know, I can forgive them, so I don't know. I don't know if it's just 80s that I'm just like, oh yeah, that's movies.
Well, they were the movies when you were
When I was a
child.
kid,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So,
Yeah. One thing about Coen movies in general, but specifically with this one, Blood Simple, is that, man, they make me want to make movies so much.
have that response to every Coen movie,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watch it, I'm just like, oh man, I remember doing, I want to
Well,
do that
especially
again.
with a movie like Blood Simple.
Yeah.
It's like everything you see in this movie that we could go do like right now.
That's what I mean
Yeah.
by
It's low budget.
Yeah.
It's simple practical effects.
Yeah, in No Country for Old Men, it feels that way a lot to me too.
Yeah.
because the shots are so simple.
Yeah.
and Blood Simple is also so simple. I just love how clean everything is. It's just it feels really well thought out to me. You know?
Yeah.
It does not feel messy at all.
Yeah.
There's no extraneous material here. I love that.
That's epic.
That's so epic.
That is so epic.
I got a question for y'all.
All right.
Okay, so imagine, if you will.
Okay.
Okay. This movie, Blood Simple. Okay.
I'm
Imagine
imagining.
the essence of this movie.
Okay.
My brain.
If it were a pizza. Okay. If it were a pizza.
Can I do a peach?
No, it has to
Okay.
be pizza. What kind of pizza would it be?
I know.
What's that? Wait a second. You're saying this as if we've done this all the time.
He already knows. You already know.
I know exactly what pizza this is.
What is it?
This is a Mountain Mike's pepperoni pizza with red chili flakes.
That's great.
Yeah, delicious.
Sounds awesome. Fresh,
Wow.
fresh
Zesty.
though. It's fresh though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like just picked it up
All right.
straight from the shop.
Dang. It's good
Delicious.
pizza.
That's pretty dang good.
Zesty,
Zesty. Fast food.
spicy.
Okay, I got one. Okay.
Uh-huh.
There's a pizza place that's no longer around over by my house called I don't remember. It's called Cool River Pizza. It might still be around for another place. Anyway, they have this crust that when they cook the pizza, they put butter on the crust and they have like little chives on it.
Wow.
Or not chives, but little herbs. Yeah, exactly that noise. So when you eat the pizza, it's great pizza, great toppings. This is pepperoni, completely pepperoni pizza. But you eat it and you get to the crust and you're just like, it's the end of the game, and you keep eating and you're just like, oh man, this is another thing here. You're just like, there's two parts to this pizza. It's that good.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all
Whoa.
That sounds delicious.
Whoa.
good. What is it?
I would say,
This is a blood orange pizza with caramelized onions.
oh, damn, that sounds kind of good. No, I'd say this is, you're at a family reunion with Mommy Nona,
Mommy Nona?
she's your she's your Italian great aunt.
Mine?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Tita.
And
I've never met her.
and you're there when her grandson makes his first pizza. First time.
Pizza.
And it's amazing. It's a very, very good pizza, and it's so good that it inspires it makes the people at the party so happy that it inspires him that he's going to make pizza the rest of his life.
Oh wow.
And you know that when you're eating it, you are at the beginning of something.
It's going to be great.
amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
But is it really that good
This
though?
sounds
Could
like
a
a
kid really
heavy-
make a good pizza?
This sounds like a very heavy parallel.
Well, he could because his
Why would I trust just like a random kid?
his grandma is Mama Nona.
No, the thing is,
She
she taught
passing down secrets.
the thing is,
This
you've
is
already
Italy,
tasted-
man.
Wait, so who was Coen Brothers' mentors then?
No.
Film school.
He's
Oh, okay. Film
you've
school
tasted
is.
his pizzas from the future, and now you're talking about an older one.
Oh.
And you're like, you can see where he's gonna go.
Oh,
Yeah. So imagine you could go back in time and find the original Papa John.
Papa,
I'm a Papa John.
Papa.
That's it. Kenny, end us out, man.
You've been listening to the Talkies, and
By Karman Line Studios.
you've been listening to the Talkies from Karman Line Studios, and this was just the beginning of COENCON. I believe our next episode means Raising Arizona.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah.
That's correct.
Raising
I think
Arizona.
We haven't done any research, so.
Still believe it's Nicolas Cage's best performance of his life.
Except for Mandy.
Okay, all right. Let
And
the jury
what's
deliberate
that movie
on that
The
one.
Wicker Man.
Bees!
Except for that. Wicker Man, yeah.
Tune in every single Friday to get new episodes of the Talkies wherever you listen to podcasts and YouTube.
Yes, sir.
Is that all we say in the outro?
That's all we say.
Laters.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.